First, we'll take our power cord and plug it into the back of the Sidney unit. Then we'll take our power cable for our 40 layer insulator and our SDC Ultra and plug them in. Now let's take the power cables for our camera control unit and our light source and plug them in as well. Let's go ahead and take our DVI cable and plug it into the back of the camera control unit. And we'll take that and we'll plug it into the input on the back of the SDC Ultra. Now we'll go from the output on the back of the SDC Ultra and then we'll go to the input on the back of the Sidney unit. Take another DVI cable and go from the output on the Sidney unit and go to the input on the back of our monitor. Let's take a USB cable and plug it into our device port. And then we'll go ahead and take the other end of that USB cable and plug it into the Sidney input on the back of our insulator. Let's go ahead and take the rest of our USB cables and plug them into port 2, 3, and 4 on the device ports on the back of the Sidney unit. And we'll take the other ends and plug them into their Sidney ports. Let's go ahead and plug in our 1/4 inch cable into the back of the transmitter, and then we'll plug in our power as well. Let's go to the front of the unit and plug in our microphone. We'll power it on, and there you have it.
Sidney ready. Telephone connected. Light source connected. Camera connected. Insulator connected. Digital capture connected.
Today we're going to talk about the Stryker SIDNE Voice Activation System. The main components that you need for the system is the SIDNE Voice Activation console, and then any device that you would want to hook up to SIDNE to be able to make voice recognition. The other important key factor that you need is you need to have a wireless mic system. So you need the wireless mic transmitter and then the wireless microphone itself. One of the tips I can tell you is most people that have trouble, when they turn it on, this number doesn't match with your transmitter number. So you want to ensure that both of these numbers match up. If they do, then you're in good shape. And another easy test to do is just talk into the microphone and you will see your mic level raise up and down. So if that's flat or flat-lined and you don't see any movement, then you know it's not hooked up correct. You want to make sure that all of the components are hooked to the SIDNE Voice Activation System. And then, as usual, the non-sterile person would be passed off the sterile field equipment. One of the pieces of equipment would be the insulator tubing. So you're going to hook in the insulator tubing. The next piece of equipment is going to be your camera and your light source. So those would be passed off and then hooked up. One of the other key features for the system is the fact that since you can activate the light source on and off with your voice, you no longer have to worry about it being in the standby mode or in the non-standby mode when the light source is not actually hooked up to the scope. So it's kind of a nice safety feature for the device. The camera's hooked in, light cord's hooked in, and then the actual scope itself is then hooked on the sterile side of the field. So the non-sterile person at this point that has hooked all the equipment in should be done and be able to go back to charting or second circulating or whatever the case may be. So basic functionality of the system, you always want to make sure that when you turn the system on, you see the SIDNE overlay on the screen. If you do not see that SIDNE overlay, 9 times out of 10, the SIDNE is not either hooked up correctly or it's not functioning. So you want to make sure you see the overlay. Then all you have to do from there is to run it manually is to SIDNE, light source, light source, light source, activate. So as you can tell, it's activated our light source just by simple voice commands. Now, if you look on the menu, it might take a little bit of time to get used to, but everything has a specific category. And when you hear that button, it means that SIDNE has gone back into the sleep mode. So you'll have to wake her up again. And the way to do that is just by saying her name, which is SIDNE, light source, standby. And it'll put the light source into standby. So you have either activate mode, standby mode, you can make it brighter, you can make it darker, just by all voice commands. So that's one thing that you can do. The other thing, again, depending on how many units you have hooked up to the SIDNE system, you can control the insufflator. So we're gonna wake SIDNE up by saying SIDNE, SIDNE, insufflator, activate. We're using our little rubber glove balloon bag system to replicate the inner abdominal pressure, but as you can tell, the system is actually activating right now and it's blowing it up. So when you want to stop it, basically all you would have to do is say SIDNE, SIDNE, insufflator, stop, stop, and it'll stop the insufflation. So now that the insufflation is stopped, again, if you're all the way at the high end of the device, you can lower it. If you're all the way at the low end of the device, you can raise it. The other nice part about the SIDNE activation system is pictures. Now, typically, you can take a picture through the camera head button on the camera head, through the SDC console, or actually through the camera CCU. So there are multiple ways to take pictures, but the one nice thing is the surgeon doesn't have to worry about it, and if the button head feature doesn't work, it's kind of a nice backup system. So basically you would say SIDNE, 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 digital capture, capture. And as you can tell, it's actually taking a picture of the screen. I can show you in the color bar mode, it's a little bit more effective. Capture. So as you can tell, same as if it was on a tower, it would bring up that block of 4. You can also record through the device as well. So we're going to say record, 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 maybe, record, SIDNE, 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 digital capture, record. So it'll let you know that it's recording, and then you can always say stop, stop, stop. So as you can tell, a lot of different commands that are available through the SIDNE device. It allows the circulator to not have to be by the tower and have to be able to do the commands that the surgeon wants onto the field. One of the things would be the light source, right? So preventing a fire in the operating room is one of the most important things, and this is one way you can ensure that the light source would always be on standby. For a surgeon's peace of mind to know that is a big benefit. So we would go SIDNE, SIDNE, light source, activate. So now the light source is activated. So one of the nice parts is once the light source is activated, the case is ready to begin. one of the things a surgeon always wants to do is ensure that the camera's been white balanced. So very easy to do from his own voice and control. Sidney, 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 camera, white balance. And
White balance complete.
it always gives you that voice recognition back that it's done the command that you want it to do. So in this case, we could also do zoom, Sidney, camera, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. And as you can see, the zoom button on the actual CCU is showing up and it's giving you a zoomed in picture. So if you wanted to zoom out, you could say zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. You can also change specialties. So specialty, specialty, microscope. One of the other great parts about a Stryker CCU is it gives you different specialty options based on what procedure that you're doing. So in order to get the right type of picture, you need to be in that right procedure. The other nice thing is it gives you a bar layout of the actual device right here on the inlay on the picture. So you know what's going on and you don't have to take your eyes off of the field and look at the piece of equipment. You can just look at it on the screen. So basic troubleshooting of the SIDNE unit, you want to ensure a few things. The first thing you want to ensure is that your video signal is routed properly, and that meaning from the camera box to the SDC, from the SDC to the SIDNE, from the SIDNE to the monitor. That's an educational video on the SIDNE Voice Activation System. Thank you very much and have a great day.